Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and today I'm accompanied by my co-host, Jacob Young. Don't forget that Down in the Valley is brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Golden Gold Press. Jacob, how are you doing, man?
Doing good, real good. Looking forward to this broadcast, man. A lot to talk about, and really exciting stuff happened last night. So, yeah, looking forward to talk about that as well as the trip to Phoenix, the last road trip the last road trip to the West Coast for a while. As of course, the next two games would be Phoenix Rising FC on the road, and of course. At home versus LA Galaxy 2.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting episode tonight. We're going to be talking about three matches pretty much today. We'll be talking about last week's match against LA Galaxy 2 at LA. We'll be talking about last night's match between the Toros and the Portland Timbers 2. And like you said, next Friday's match, also away, against the Phoenix Rising. So there's a lot that we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about today about Conor Donovan's supposed suspension from last night's match. We'll talk about that later on. And as well, another thing that I do want to talk about today has got to be the improvement in relationship, I think, between the Dynamo and the Toros when it comes to sending down players. And obviously, as well, we do want to talk about a bit about Tyler Derrick. We kind of hinted at it yesterday in Generation Orange. And it would be interesting to see what you guys think about this. Based on what we saw against LA Galaxy 2, and based on what we saw against Portland Timbers 2 last night, do you think that goalkeeper Tyler Derrick will just suffer against Galaxy for a rotated lineup, or has he lost some of that talent that we know from him with the Dynamo in the MLS? So it'll be an interesting topic that we would like to talk about tonight. And obviously in all of those matches. But first things first, man. Let's talk a little bit about the match against LA Galaxy 2. You know, it was a match that it started out, to me, like really, really bad for the Toros. It seemed like they had no idea how to stop LA Galaxy 2's wings. You had DDA Traore. You had I forgot the other kid's name, but they were pretty much running around the team in the first half. Like there was no connection, and it was obvious that it was going to be like that because of the rotated lineup. You know, Coach Echeverri had to rest some of the key players from that are usual starters, because of the short turnaround from that last Saturday against Las Vegas Lights.
Yeah, exactly. We knew that coming into that match that it would be a different lineup just due to the fact of travel and, well, they just played a home match versus Las Vegas Lights, excuse me. I always want to call them LAFC. They are not even close to LAFC, but yeah, Las Vegas Lights, they just played a game against them at home, and of course, a short turnaround on Wednesday is going to have to make Jerson, change up the lineup. And yeah, the first half of the game did not look like, it looked like the Toros that we had known from 2017, kind of 2018, and just at the start of the season, to where they were just slow. They didn't know what to do. It was a very interesting way to watch that game. I mean, they went down to one goal early on in that match, and that's something that, we didn't necessarily expect from that team. We didn't necessarily expect from that game. But of course, as we had talked about before, LA Galaxy 2 always gives the Toros trouble in any way, shape, or form. We talked about it. They had not won against this team as well.
Yeah, and like I said, first half it was they really struggled. The Toros really struggled. Um, the speed of Didier Traore, especially in that first goal, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. He went past four Toros defenders, including Conor Donovan. And I think the biggest question mark for me was not only was it that why was he able to get past four defenders, why was Traore able to score from Tyler Derrick's near post? You know, that's one of the things when you're a goalkeeper that they tell you that's what you have to guard the most. And 9 times out of 10, if you get scored on in the near post, then that's usually the goalkeeper's fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Why was the key? Why was he able to do that is the big question. And of course, yeah, normally it is the goalkeeper's fault. You could hint that that first goal also scored on. Tyler Derrick could also say that he was blocked. He didn't necessarily fall. He wasn't necessarily able to follow the ball all the way up to that point. That's sometimes what happens to goalkeepers. Now, that's not a main excuse that he can really have behind his back because it's happened before to him where that's happened. He just has to have that next sense kind of to say, well, yeah, I've got to protect this goal in full force no matter what and make sure that they do not score on the inside of my post, just like you said.
Yeah. So that ended up happening, and then the second half, it seemed like Coach Echeverri was, hey, what's up, Dad? It seemed like Coach Echeverri was aware of the issues that were happening in the match because he decides to bring in the big guns. He decides to put in Malik Foster. He decides to bring in Isidro Martinez. He decides to bring in Michael Salazar into the match. And right after he does the substitutions in a counterattack, LA Galaxy 2 is able to find the second goal. And right then and there, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be another one of those matches. Like I couldn't see how they would be able to come back. Because the LA Galaxy 2 defense looked really, really good. I couldn't find a way that they would be able to penetrate it, and if they did, their goalkeeper, I think his name is Romero, he was able to block anything that was able to get past the defenders. And so, but then right then and there, you see the speed of Malik Foster. And in that first goal, that was pretty much, taking advantage of the speed of Foster. And I have a feeling, and I mentioned it yesterday, that I have a feeling that this Toros is beginning to look a little like the Dynamo of 2016-2017, where the Dynamo at that time with Albert Elise, they would try to look for the counterattack, taking advantage of his speed. And it looks like they're doing the same thing with Malik Foster. In the first goal, he was able to get past the defenders, and out. Not only did he outpace them, he outmuscled them when he needed to. And then he was able to send a cross back over to Michael Salazar. He's able to slot that in. Then a couple of minutes later, the Toros get the other goal. I thought it was interesting how a goal can make such a big difference in a match like that. You started to see the Toros attack a lot more confident out there. You started seeing Robert Coronado, going up and helping the attack. And Robert Coronado was the one who got the assist in the second goal with another beautiful, beautiful cross. So it was interesting how all of a sudden the defense for LA Galaxy 2 broke down.
Yeah, no, it was interesting to say so the least with that whole thing. You're talking about a second half substitution that really sparked up this offense, considering they were down 2 goals at that time. And yeah, big credit to RGVFC and especially Jerson, for finding that hole to say, oh, okay, well, this is going to happen, so I need to substitute these two players for our big guns. And yeah, it's insane to have those types of players where they're just able to really have an effect on this game. We didn't necessarily see that last year, and we didn't see that for sure in 2017. And so it's this extra motivation for sure to say, oh, we have these players that can get sent out and actually make not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless to help bring some motivation onto this field, bring some motivation onto this pitch, and probably get yourself a goal to get back into this game. And that's exactly what they did, considering, yeah, they do wait on that counterattack, but I think it's benefited them a lot more than we kind of expected or even anticipated.
You know what? How I see it more of, I don't see it that these players are good, because they are good. That's why they're starters. My biggest concern out of this match is that our substitutes and reserves are very far away from the level of the starters. And if we have to do some roster movements, like, trying to rotate this roster, like we had to do this time, that's where I think the Toros are going to struggle. We have the man numbers, but we probably don't have the necessary talent. There's too big of a gap between Malik Foster and Nico Lemoyne. There's too big of a gap between Isidro Martinez and Kevin Rodriguez. There's too big of a gap between Andrew Samuels and Zach Jackson.
Yeah. I see that exactly. There is too big of a gap of that. But why is there such a big gap of that? It goes back to just how many minutes each player has necessarily gotten this season, what the chemistry has been like, and things like that. I'm not saying that there's probably something wrong in the locker room. I bet you all of them are great friends, but the difference is how you're able to play with one another on the pitch. And it's just that starting lineup, those players, when they're on the pitch together, when they're on the field together, it creates chemistry. It creates the spark that we know and now officially have loved with this Toros squad. And that, yes, it does strike a problem, because we're not going to see Malik Foster past the summer. We're not going to see Wilmer Cabrera Jr. past the summer as well. We're not going to see these players that have actually made a huge impact on our team through the summer, whether it would be international breaks or going back to their original clubs or going to college, of course. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer, to say so the least. But with the players that we have right now, we're taking advantage of it, and it's perfect. We've hit the stride at the exact right time. But like you said, our reserves and our bench warmers, something's got to change with that. Yes, we got our super subs, but it's just going to be interesting, because we're just not going to have those players, and there's a big gap.
I want to play devil's advocate on myself, because this might also be a part of it might be because these players haven't had game time minutes, and we've talked many times how important that is for chemistry, to have play game time minutes with each other. And that's three defensive-minded or two defensive-minded players on the same side of the pitch that were brand new to the system, that haven't played with each other before. And you could tell how they played, that there was something lacking there. And the obvious response is in Didi Traore's goal. That's the exact side of the pitch where Kevin Rodriguez and Zach Jackson were located. And that's where Didi Traore pretty much dribbled his way inside of the box like if it was going through his house, you know. There was no coordination in between between Rodriguez and Zach Jackson to be like, okay, so I'm going to be here. If he gets past me, I'm going to expect you to be like right there to help me out. No, there was a big gap between both of them, and Traore was able to capitalize on it. So Santos says, let's go Toros. Jake says, RGV's in a good place right now. Just got to blend the team chemistry up a bit. Maybe suggest having them do team bonding time. Well, they do. Just take a look at their Instagrams. They do have team bonding time. But we're not talking about that kind of chemistry, Jake. We're talking about in-game, on-the-field chemistry. You know, technical chemistry. That's the kind of chemistry we're talking about. Not necessarily whether they get along personally or not. I mean, they get along really well. Trust me. But it's on the pitch when it comes to our bench and reserves that is being an issue that was seen against LA Galaxy too. Blues fan says, kind of tough to build team chemistry when the Dynamo can chuck players in the 11 at a whim, especially with such a young team. And we talked about that yesterday.
Yep. Exactly. And I don't think that they're going to do that a lot. It's going to be the opposite way, where we're probably going to have to force those players down at any given moment just so that Houston Dynamo can keep their bench as deep as they can possibly be throughout this summer break. Luckily, they do have a break. I believe both these teams will have a break due to either World Cup or, of course, the Gold Cup, Copa America, all that other fun stuff. Not to mention that in 2020, there's probably going to be even more breaks due to the Olympics, too. So it's going to be interesting to say so least what happens with all that team chemistry and team building, just like we're talking about now. Of course, it's all about getting these players playing together, and those are perfect examples of when those players need to be out on the pitch. And of course, at the moment, Tristan can do that exact thing and say, for one half, if of course we get down 1 goal or 2 goals, just like we saw in LA, then he can easily put in the starters. So yes, it will hurt with the fans, but at the same time, that's what you need to do, because it's going to be a struggle to get these players to just play well together once Malik is officially gone and all those other players are officially gone as well.
Yeah, and like we mentioned last week, it's going to be a big issue the big question, I should say, whether Matt Jordan is going to get somebody else to replace Malik Foster that is of similar talent level, or if we're going to pretty much juke it out with what we have so far. I highly doubt it. Usually during Toros history, it's always been they get like 1 or maybe 2 players during the summer transfer window to kind of help out the Toros in a bit. We talked about it last week as well, that it's going to be a lot of Matt Jordan's going to have to think of it really well, because he's also got the Dynamo to think of. And you mentioned it. You have Gold Cup with Elise, Kyoto. Now there's talk of maybe Manotas, being looked at by the Colombian coach. Maynard Figueroa, if I'm not mistaken, is still getting. I'm not sure if he's still getting called up, but he's such a good player right now that with the Dynamo that he might be called up. So that's players where they're gonna have to get some depth from, and we're gonna be losing Wilmer Cabrera Jr. We're gonna be losing Malik Foster. We don't have an actual confirmed timeline of when Aldo Quintanilla is coming back. He says August, but we see it with like we saw it with Juan David Cabezas, where they mentioned the date, and it got delayed for some for X or Y reason. His rehabilitation got delayed. So and out of all of the positions that we have on the team, the attacking position, the attackers, the forwards, that's where we're lacking the most. Blues fan says, I think in-game chemistry can be built if the team had played with one another over a stretch of time, or if it's based off a philosophy that can be consistent over time. Pretty much, but it all involves game time. The issue that I have is that I'm one of those that believe in, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that includes, starting 11s. If you have a starting 11 that's giving you results, that is getting you points, whether draws or victories, then don't move it unless you really have to. Unless there is an injury, or unless someone is extremely tired, or there's an apparent lack of form. Then you'll substitute one. But substituting like a lot, just to get in minutes, it kind of defeats the purpose, because for the same reason, because of the lack of chemistry with the new guys, might bring down the playing level for the whole team. But then again, it's kind of like at work, when you're looking for a job and they're like, well, we require this much experience, and we're like, well, how do you want me to get experience if I can't find a job that'll pick me up without experience? So it's something that has to be balanced out a lot. Another thing that I do want to point out, man, unless you have anything else you want to talk about in regards to this subject.
No, I think you said it really well. I mean, I guess I just have to say this one thing from your last comment. Well, that's the whole reason why we don't have Ontiveros or someone else with us, because they could not wait to get the experience necessary.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's wearing black and yellow right now.
Exactly. And that was our start to none other than our 5-game unbeaten streak.
Oh yeah, 0-0 against the number 2 team, and now we come in and beat the number 1 team. Nobody thought that would be possible. I mean, there were so many people in the beginning of the season that were willing to fire coach. Where are they now?
Where are you at now? Well, I think one is still in the chat though.
Hi.
Santos.
Ouch. But no, the point is that there's no, and not necessarily Santos, because Santos knows that this team was good, in and of itself. But there's so many people on Twitter, there's so many people on Facebook and Instagram, mostly Instagram, that were just bashing the team in the comments like hardcore. No, you guys suck, blah, 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 fire coach, blah, 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 blah. Where are they now? You look at the comments right now, and there's much less comments when we're winning. Like, where are those people that were bashing the team? Why aren't they coming back? Why aren't they as vocal now that we have a winning streak, that we have a positive streak? No, Santos. No, Blues fan. No, the other, another Santos from RGV. Not you, Blues. Yeah, we have 2 Santos, right? That listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, where I was getting at is, where are all those people that were making negative comments about the team in social media when things were bad, and now that we're good, they're nowhere to be found? Are they the kind of the people that are just waiting for? And I'll bet you anything, once we lose another match, they'll be back at it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to see that we have those kind of fans out there.
Yeah. It is, but I think that happens with every fan base, no matter what team it is. You'll have those fans. Of course, we're kind of an exception considering that we're a young team, or well, yeah, just a young franchise is what I really mean. Because what is it, 4 years now? That's not necessarily a long time. It could be a long time to some people, but in a sports franchise, that's not a long time considering how long Club America have been around. DC United, all these other clubs have been. So yeah, it's growing pains with the fan base. We're experiencing those types of fans, and that's, well, at least we can get rid of it now and get those loyal and real fans to stay in the seats, and of course just add on from there.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on with the subject, with LA Galaxy 2. What is it? What do they feed Chuy Enriquez? What do they feed him, man? Like, really? This guy is everywhere. He's on the left. He's on the right. He's on the middle. He's always helping out, in the defense as well. And he never looks tired. The guy looks like at the end of the 90 minutes, after doing all of that, he looks like he could play another 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. He does look like he could play another 90 minutes. It's fantastic to watch that kid play. It helps that we've got him, and then of course he's got other players on the field to really help him out. And I mean, we talked about it last season. That's what really got this club to life. And then we brought on, of course, last year, none other than the Panamanian star of Carlos Small, which, by the way, oh my goodness, he is back. And it's pretty awesome to see. But yeah, those two together as well really create this even bigger spark for him. And yeah, what do they feed him? Only he knows, and coach knows.
But we do know that part of his diet is watermelon. So
yeah, exactly.
That much we know. So guys, eat your fruits and veggies. Even though I don't do that, but that's another topic. But yeah, so you see it in the third goal against LA Galaxy 2. Like, the guy is able to get a rebound, dribble past his defenders, and send a really good cross over to wherever he needs to. And then like my dad mentioned, part of the success of this team is the sacrifice on helping out on other parts of the field. And that's exactly what we see out of Chuy Enriquez. Like, he is determined to get a win for this team. And it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Like, for him, it's as long as the team gets the goal, gets the 3 points, he's happy.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I mean, I know I'd be getting ahead of myself with saying this, but I mean, just look at the Portland Timbers game last night as well. How excited he was when Carlos Small finished off that goal. Mm-hmm. So yeah, exactly. He just helps out this team. He brings that extra level, and if someone else finishes it, that's fantastic. He's just there to help out in any way, shape, or form, and that's a leader right there. Of course, we can say, or you can make the debate all you want about him being a leader and him maybe deserving this captain's band, but let's remember this kid is still young. Let's let someone else have the captain band, which we talked about before, which would be Kyle Adams or Conor Donovan, whenever Conor Donovan's in. Just let this man lead this offense. It can be separate sides, basically, but just let this man do his own thing.
Yeah. And then you look at you look at their fourth goal, which, by the way, LA Galaxy's third goal, I do want to point out that it derived from a corner kick where the Toros were down one man, and it wasn't because of the red card. This was because in the previous play, Zach Jackson got an injury, and so he had to because the trainer, the physical trainer, came onto the pitch. He had to leave the pitch in order to continue to get treatment, And then right in that instance, that's where LA Galaxy 2 was able to get their third goal. And right after, once again, Chuy Enriquez is starting the play, sends a chipped cross over to Conor Donovan. Conor Donovan manages to get a touch on the ball before Romero does, and the ball lands to Michael Salazar, get us the fourth. And it all seemed, because this was, if I'm not mistaken, like 80. It was already in the 90th minute when we got the fourth goal, the go-ahead goal. So it seemed like you were gonna have, your prediction was gonna come true. We were gonna get the 3 points. The curse against LA Galaxy 2 would be finished. But then referee says, okay, 4 minutes of added time. Then all of a sudden, you get to the 94th minute. Referee never whistles. And then in the 95th minute, LA Galaxy 2 is able to find the equalizer. Mm-hmm. Where did those extra 2 minutes come from?
Well, I can tell you where at least 30 seconds of those 2 minutes come from. When they normally say, let's say, 5 minutes or 4 minutes of added time, they basically mean 4 minutes and 30 seconds of added time. So that's where those 30 seconds came in. But those extra 2 minutes shouldn't have ever really necessarily come. Mm. There wasn't a big enough stop for there to be even more added time. Yes, some could argue that RGVFC was taking way too much time letting the ball go into play and start up again. Mm-hmm. But then again, it's up to the ref for those things, and even that's probably 5 seconds more at most. So it's not like RGVFC could have wrapped up an extra minute from just being really slow on the ball to get the ball back in bounds or something like that, just because they had a lead. So yeah, I don't know where those extra minutes came from, but of course, when you're a ref and you're trying to, let's say LA Galaxy had a ton of chances at the end of the game, which they kind of did, of course, leading to that extra goal. If they keep the ball, if they get another rebound or something like that and go and dribble back down the pitch, well, you'd be a terrible ref if you stopped it right as they got to the end line. You've got to wait for their chance to finish, and of course those extra minutes, and then RGVFC is already pretty tired, and you can't make a clearance, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. So it was tough. That also reminds me, well, yes, he added 90 plus, he added 4 minutes, but I do recall that the last goal for RGVFC did come in that 90 minute. So that's where your extra minute really did come from.
I don't know, but independently of that, you look at how this goal came to play, and we go back to the inexperience of our midfield, and that is, where was Kevin Rodriguez? Why was he so deep inside the box? Conor Donovan gets the clearance, but the ball lands directly into a Galaxy player. The nearest Toros player was Kevin Rodriguez inside of the box, almost a couple feet ahead of the 6-yard box. Had Kevin Rodriguez stayed in his position, that LA Galaxy attacker would not have gotten that outside the box shot so comfortably. Mm-hmm. Independently, that the shot came and Tyler Derrick parried it, and it landed in the feet of the LA Galaxy 2 thing. It happens. It's been in favor of us for many, many times. That time it went against us. But the play could have been avoided, for starters, had Kevin Rodriguez been in the position that he needed to be. There needed to be, if it wasn't Kevin Rodriguez, there needed to be somebody else outside the box waiting for a clearance like that. and they didn't do it. There came the consequences. Now it wasn't a bad result at all. I mean, that was a result, like getting the draw at LA Galaxy 2 was a result that, okay, would have been happy with. But the circumstances of how it came to be, how we got the draw, that we lost the lead, I think that's what hurt more, at least for me.
Well, yeah, of course, losing the lead is never a happy feeling. When someone takes away 2 extra points, or when someone takes away 3 points from their opponent, yeah, they feel extremely ecstatic, especially if it's close to the end of the game. It makes them feel like they just won a freaking game. So, of course, to the visiting team, it's basically like getting stabbed in the back. It's a terrible feeling for sure. But, of course, it's just a way that the stuff like that happens. Why did the Toros let themselves get into that situation in the first place is also another thing. Why did the play happen the way that it did? And that's a frustrating thing to really get around. Yes, you see the ball go into the back of the net, but it always goes back to Toro should have been able to clear that ball by far. And, of course, yes, you should have had your midfielder actually in his position too. Mm-hmm. But going all the way to that play, it's just you're giving them another opportunity, and that's very frustrating. And of course, they took advantage of that.
Yes, Santos. Tyler Derrick did mess up, but the point that we're debating right now, excuse me, the point that we're debating right now is that the whole play could have been avoided had everybody been in their position. Yes, Tyler Derrick gave up. At any other point in his career, he would have been able to gotten a hold of that shot. Somehow in that match, he let it go. But it could have all been avoided, like I said, had they been in their regular positions like they should have. Now, was it because they decided to park the bus? Maybe. But the point still stands that if you're going to be clearing balls out of your box, you got to have somebody in the midfielder to at least put either receive the ball and kick it even farther, or if your opponent receives the ball after that clearance, make it uncomfortable for them to make a play.
Yeah, exactly. It's very frustrating when all of that happened. Things could have been avoided. And Tyler Derrick, of course, he's already saved one, basically. And the defense is ready to clear this ball away. So he's not necessarily thinking, let me save this second opportunity. Because, yes, he's still staying focused, but it seems like the game is going to be done and dusted. And then it's kind of a misclearance. There's not another Toro player right there. There's an LA Galaxy player right there too. So that ball is put into the back of the net. And then, of course, you can say stuff about that third goal as well. And, of course, those first 2 goals is just with a totally different team that we did not necessarily see in that second half. Nonetheless, that was a very important point for this season. If I had to guess, that might be the point to get the Toros through to clinch a playoff spot with 3 games left or something like that, with chances to move up from 8th position.
Yeah, definitely. But that's what happened against LA Galaxy 2 last Wednesday. Santos also says Heat turned down on coach because he started winning. Simple as that. Yeah, okay. But I know you're a supporter, so my rant wasn't directly at you. My rant was more directed toward those other people in social media that, like I said, bashed the coach, wanted him out, bashed the players, bashed the team. And now that they're winning, they're nowhere to be found. Those are the kind of people who I'm referring to that I'm criticizing? You're there week in and week out. And yes, obviously, like you said, you have a right to criticize this team and saying what they're doing wrong, that you don't like that they're losing. But you're also there. You've been there. You're with us right now when we're winning, when this team is winning. Mm-hmm. Where is everybody else who think they know soccer? Because I've seen comments like, "Oh, these players suck. They should have gotten me." Okay. We do have open tryouts every January, right? So if you don't show up, then shut the hell up. You have an opportunity to make the team. You don't take advantage of it. You have no right to complain by saying, "Oh, well, I'm a better player." Well, then prove it. Prove it in practice, or prove it in tryouts. Don't be a keyboard warrior or a keyboard player. Nobody benefits from that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Santos, you're there week in, week out. You're a true fan. Yeah, you can go up in the comments and things like that and say, I don't like what the coach is doing. I think he should get fired, even though, of course, it was a bit too early considering what we've done now. But, you're there week in, week out. And, of course, those people online are gone, basically. We've started to win, and they are completely, basically gone. And that's something that, of course, we don't want to see. But I've also talked about it before. We're getting those types of fans now, kind of. And it's early into this just franchise. So I'm thinking that this is just one step closer to getting a regular fan base where, yes, they can go back and forth on a point. And then, of course, just support this team even if they're losing. So it's interesting to say so the least. Like you said, we'll probably see them again this season. We still got over 20 games left or something crazy like that. So we've got all the way until October to really see where this season takes us.
Yeah, definitely. So going into more positive topics, we jump all the way to yesterday night, to last night, where the Toros went once again on the road to Portland to play against Portland Timbers 2. Keep in mind, this is another team that had a 4-game winning streak. This is another team that it was in first place in the Western Conference. This is a team that looked really, really difficult to defeat. This was a team that, although many times they started out losing, they were undefeated even when they were losing. They got scored on first. They were able to get back, or they were able to tie it back. So this was a difficult team. I don't care if it's an MLS2 team, because there's so many USL fans that right away, San Antonio fans, that right away diminish a team just because they're an MLS2 team. We've seen many examples. New York Red Bulls 2, Portland Timbers 2, Real Monarchs. We've seen these teams that make a decent run. New York Red Bulls 2 has won a championship in the USL. So, and Portland has shown that they have really, really good players so far this season. So we go over to Merlo Field, and we find a goal really early in the match, around the 9th minute around there. Wilmer Cabrera Jr. Was able to slot it in, thankfully, and give the Toros the 1-0 lead. Granted, what I didn't like about the rest of the first half was that they gave the possession to Portland Timbers 2. Yes, the defense looked really sturdy out there. They were not able to allow Portland Timbers 2 to even get a decent shot on goal. But it just I felt that they were giving way too much time or confidence to Portland Timbers too to try to get one back. Looked like the Toros, like I mentioned before, it looks like the 2016 Dynamo looking for, because if you notice, Kevin Garcia or Andrew Samuels, they would look for a long ball over to Malik Foster. And Malik Foster was caught in offsides many times, or the pass just wasn't good enough or too far ahead for Malik Foster to get to. But you saw that tactic of looking for Malik Foster's speed against Marco Farfan. And we almost got away with it in the 45th minute in the first half. Malik Foster was already going to leave the defense way behind. But Marco Farfan pulls on his shirt, brings down Malik Foster, and somehow the referee says that there was no clear chance on goal and it was only a yellow card for Farfan. Yeah. Do you agree with that decision or not?
Well, I can see how it can be both. And I can see why the ref said and decided to give him only a yellow card. Yes, Malik Foster did get pulled, like his jersey did get pulled behind, but of course the player didn't necessarily go in feet first. And then of course there's a goalie right in front of him. Yes, of course, if he gets to the ball, he can maybe hop over the goalkeeper or chip over him or do something like that. But at the same time, the ball was still pretty far in front of him. He did have a bit of a distance still to run to get to the possession of the ball. So given that fact as well, yes, I do see how that's a yellow card, and I do see how the ref could have called that easily a red card as well. But of course, just like I said, he didn't necessarily go in feet first. He did basically choke this man, and then there was a goalkeeper coming up. So yeah, it's a fair choice to say that it could have been a red card for sure. He did get lucky and get away with something, but at the same time, given all those factors into play, the ref did not make a bad call. It's 50-50 on that. It's up to the referee, and so I'd say the ref did an okay thing.
So let me go ahead and go real quickly over the starting 11 for RGVFC for last night's match. You had Tyler Derrick on goal. You had Andrew Samuels, Kevin Garcia, loaned down from Dynamo, Kyle Adams and Robert Coronado, Romilio Hernandez and Isidro Martinez, Malik Foster, Andy Cabrera, Chuy Enriquez, and up on top, Michael Zalazar. So that was the starting 11 for the Toros yesterday, which, like I said, this is the starting 11 that needs to be out there consistently week in and week out, because this is the lineup that has proven Coach Echeverri that they can get the job done. These are the best of the best that we have in this roster, and we just have that. We have that plus that we have Carlos the Small on the bench, and he's a player, like you say, like he's a super sub, and we've seen it.
Yeah, exactly. This was a great lineup, to say so the least, with all the super subs. I mean, I'm glad that Carlos Small is also getting into form as well, because if you've never seen it, because I kind of just noticed it last night on TV, how big the player is, how big Carlos Small is. He's not just this tiny striker that you'd notice like Lionel Messi size, where he's still pretty skinny. No, this man is big. He's bulky. He can power through some players, and we've already kind of seen it. He's the Jorginho James that knows how to use his body, basically, too. That's how I kind of saw him last night. And so, yeah, that's a super sub that we really need. And, of course, he's finally coming into form, and he just impressed me last night.
Yeah, he impressed me as well. Who I wasn't really impressed with yesterday, but that's because you can't expect to be 100% like consistent, like he's gonna score you a hat trick every week, you know. But Michael Salazar, although he didn't score a goal, like he was assisting, the attack, coming back to help recover the ball, to build the attack and try to distribute the ball over to either Chewy or Malik. He did have an opportunity in the second half, right after Portland Timbers scores the equalizer. He had an opportunity once again, Malik Foster sending him across, but this time instead of putting it inside the net, he soars it over the bar. And actually, that was right before the Portland Timbers scored. 6 minutes later, that's when Portland equalizes, and the Toros looked a little bit nervous at first, right after the goal against. It looked like Portland was feeling a lot more confidence with the ball. But as the time went on, the Toros got their confidence back and were able to avoid the high press from Portland. Because Portland was playing high press all day long, all game long. They were looking to press on the Toros midfield. But if you saw, like, once the Toros got confident, you started seeing a lot of 1-2 passing, a lot of triangulations between the plays to get past the pressure, and which I really 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 liked. I don't think we had seen a Toros as dynamic as the one we have now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, but one thing that you did bring up was that, well, the Portland Timbers 2 goal. How did they score? Well, let's just back up a bit before then. Chuy Enriquez kind of did go in there a bit recklessly and did create a foul. And, of course, then it comes off of a set piece into the back of the net. And that's one thing that was disappointing, to say the least, because once again that foul could have been avoided if RGVFC just kind of did things differently on that play, if you see where I'm going with this, because it's happened before where we had to give up a penalty up in Tulsa too, due to just having to catch back up and things like that. And of course, yeah, they're playing on what seemed to be turf as well, so it was a bit slippery, considering that they have had rain there. And yes, it was sunny outside, but that's not going to just soak up everything. Yeah, considering that they probably wash up the
and
turf.
In the beginning of the match, like, you just saw, like, with every step, with every pass of the ball, you just saw, like, water coming out of the field. I was like, are they playing water polo or what the hell's going on? And then they still watered the turf in the second half. Yeah. But so going back in that, to that play, that equalizer for Portland, like you said, Chuy probably was a little bit too ambitious in that play and caused the foul. But there's something that nobody talked about in that goal. There was an obvious foul against Kyle Adams in that play, right next to the goal scorer. Farfan, I think it's either Farfan. I don't think it was Asperia, but Marco Farfan pushes, and it was a blatant push, because you see in the replay from the camera that's behind the goal, like, you see Marco Farfan's arms, like, extended, and he brings it back, and you just see Kyle Adams, kind of go, had lost his balance, but there was an obvious push against Kyle Adams that should have been called, but nobody watched, neither the ref or the linesman were able to notice that, but that camera angle, like, showed that there was an obvious push to get Kyle Adams out of the way between the goal scorer and the goal. If that push wasn't there, I think that shot would have hit Kyle Adams and not gone in.
Yeah, I think it would have hit Kyle Adams and gone in as well. So Yeah, it was a bit rational on that corner for sure, or on that foul for sure. And then, of course, for the goal to be basically headed in the way it was, or not headed in, excuse me, but just to make that contact the way it was, very frustrating indeed. Just everything leading up to it, and then what ended up happening. The good thing is Toros weren't done yet for that game. They still showed fight, and that's basically been this 2019 campaign. We are Toros, we show fight, because they have not backed down from a lot of these games. They've ended up scoring, yes, they ended up scoring some late goals and only losing 2-1 in a couple of these matches. But for games on the road, especially like El Paso, we go back to that game. Well, they scored two straight goals and tied up 2-2, and yeah, these Toros just were able to show fight even last night as well.
Yeah, because so around the 79th minute, there was an opportunity by Malik Foster that Leaker, Jake Leaker, was able to get a good save on and send it to the corner. But we go back to the goal, or not go back, but this was it was the 85th minute after a corner. Was it a corner or a free kick? Hold on. But it's a cross by Isidro that's cleared out by the defense, and Chuy Enriquez is the one that gets it like right outside in the middle, and he dribbles it like to the other side. This is 85th minute, mind you. So he did not look tired at all. Sends the shot that goes past the goalkeeper, and the defender like stops it right on the line. So that was going to be a goal by Chuy Enriquez. But the defender is able to sit on it pretty much on the line. But Carlos Esmala was right there to just push it in, and that gave the Toros the 2-1 lead. But Portland, continued to pressure. They really wanted to win, or they wanted to equalize. But Coach Echeverri, I think he did. There's one thing that I did like. Once we got the winning goal, he decides to take out Malik Foster and decides to bring in Robert Castellanos to play with a line of 5. I think that was excellent. I think that really helped out in the attack. Why? Because they knew that Portland was gonna try and go for the wings. And Robert Coronado was doing an excellent job, to the point that Aspirilla had to change wings with the other guy because he couldn't get past Robert Coronado. So they were going to try and cross as much as possible. And you had Kevin Garcia, that experience, that leadership that he brought, I think was elemental. I was discussing with my dad last night that, without Conor Donovan, who else we could have had? It was going to be Castellanos. But Castellanos doesn't have a lot of experience. Castellanos doesn't have leadership qualities yet because he's so young. So, and against such a good team like away, and with a good team like Portland Timbers too, so far this season, it was going to be very difficult. Which is why I believe, I'm not assuring this happened, but this is why I believe that Coach Echeverri was the one that asked the Houston Dynamo to bring in Kevin Garcia. Because I highly doubt that the Dynamo would be willing to send down Kevin Garcia just out of pure goodness of their heart.
Yeah, I mean, look at who. It's just because of the history that who Houston Dynamo have sent down. We're very grateful that they've sent down goalkeepers, but then again, well, we need Nico Corti to keep growing as well in this kind of goalkeeper factory, because we know that Nico Corti still has a lot of potential. But moving on with it, we've seen them basically only give us attackers or someone like that, maybe a midfielder here and there as well, but we haven't necessarily seen them give us defenders. Only a couple of times has
it's actually been a lot of defenders, but it's usually been for players that we don't need. Because they would always send down Sam Junqua.
Yeah.
And Sam Junqua was pretty much blocking Robert Coronado from playing. Or it was Alejandro Fuenmayor when we didn't need him yet.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. I got it mixed up there for a second, but yeah, it was something that we didn't necessarily need. But we both knew that we needed someone to really fill in Conor Donovan's spot because he was still dealing with that injury from back in the day. Of course, this game or LA Galaxy, at the end of that game, he does get a red card, so that's when we had to call in for backup and get Kevin Garcia. So it's probably true that Jerson did exactly what he did, which was called up Houston Dynamo to get Kevin Garcia here on a limb. Because, I mean, to be fair, which it's idiotic that this still happens, that people do not like Kevin Garcia up there. And the RGVFC, or just the RGV, adores this man. So we got him for this game, and he put on a spectacle out there as well, and that was very...
Long live our Lord and Savior, Kevin Garcia.
Exactly. I mean, you said that last night even on Gen Orange, and it's so true.
And here's another reason why I think that's exactly what happened. Because Fuenmayor has received less minutes than Kevin Garcia in MLS. So who's more indispensable for the Dynamo at this point? Kevin Garcia. But remember that Alejandro Fuenmayor is also young. He's like 22, I think. So it wouldn't have made sense. Yeah, he would occupy Conor Donovan's role, but we weren't going to get what we needed, which was leadership and experience back there. Which is why I think that Coach Echeverri, like I said, asked specifically for Kevin Garcia for this match, which I applaud Coach, and I applaud the Dynamo. I applaud Wilmer Cabrera for allowing this to happen. And I hope that the Dynamo fans, I hope that the Dynamo organization sees how this relationship, and the RGV fans see how this relationship is improving.
Yeah, exactly. It's improving fantastically. People think that really Houston Dynamo fans think that they should be getting a player almost every single year, or almost every month, and getting a player that's top quality, the best quality possible. That's just not how this thing works. You want a youth development, you want something like that, it's going to take a while. Every single soccer simulation game or FIFA tells you exactly that thing when you want to start a youth development.
How long did it take LA Galaxy to bring up a player like Efrain Alvarez to the first team? It took them a while. How long did it take Red Bulls to get their academy going? It took them a while. To the point that now they're consistently churning out decent players for the MLS first team. But like you say, this takes a while, and Dynamo fans need to be patient. Yes, we've got it against us that we're so far away, but that's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? That's more of an issue having to do with I totally forgot the word. Make it easier for you for travel and things like that, which does affect. But at the end of the day, even if you have an USL team in Houston, just because they're also in Houston does not necessarily mean that they're going to make first team players quicker than if they were at RGV. Biggest example as well, Seattle Sounders 2. Seattle Sounders 2, they were an actual... Hold on. I'll get to that. Okay. Seattle Sounders 2 was playing as well in Seattle for a couple of years. Guess what? They decided that it wasn't beneficial for them for X or Y reason. It wasn't beneficial to have both teams in the same location. What did they do? They rebranded them to Tacoma Defiance and moved them to Tacoma, Washington. So, Glenn, I respect you for everything you do, and I really, really respect you. By the way, happy birthday, Glenn Davis, today. But I don't think it's as big of a deal that you make it out to be that RGV is the Houston Dynamo's affiliate. I don't think it's that big of a deal as you make it out to be. I mean, like I said, this is a market outreach thing. This is a talent outreach thing. Because, okay, so if they decide to make a 2-team instead of the Toros in Houston, and I mentioned this before, this organization barely was able to manage 2 teams, the Dynamo and the Dash. Now put in a Houston Dynamo 2 team, they would go crazy. And they still couldn't manage to get the academy going. Now, not only do you have your Houston Dynamo Academy, you have your RGV Academy as well, scouting players in the Rio Grande Valley and northern Mexico, mind you. So you just expanded the reach of the Houston Dynamo as far as talent is concerned to help with in the future. Now it's up to to Paul Holliker and the rest of the Dynamo Academy to get it going, to be able to efficiently develop these players in the academy level, so that by the time they reach the level where they make it to Brazos Valley Cavalry, or if they make it to the Toros, they're ready to be as professional as possible. That way, Coach Echeverri doesn't have to take time out of his schedule to play soccer, play professional soccer. And we saw a little bit of that with Eric Winalda when he talked about. He said these players think that they know everything. So I think the Houston Dynamo fans, for the most part, and I'm talking more about the common ones, not the actual diehards, like the ones who watch us in Gen Orange and the ones who watch us down in the Valley, I don't think they really understand where the Toros lie in this organization. All they care about, and some of them just barely, is about the Houston Dynamo. And that's why you have cases where they'll bash Kevin Garcia without even knowing what he brings to the table. So Jake says, just love how the Dash Dynamo RGV teams are improving relationships with each other. That's true. And then my dad says, Echeverri knows how to move his players and at the right moment. Exactly. We couldn't say the same thing with Coach Gonzalez. That guy honestly had no idea what he was doing.
We couldn't even figure out his game plan, too.
But everything was going so great.
It's always going great when you're Coach Gonzalez, even though the team's in a dumpster fire. I mean, just real quick aside, that's exactly what NASCAR says about their league at the moment, which, let me tell you, it's not amazing right now.
You mean the Kyle Busch league?
It's more than that, but just push aside, it's the same deal with these people saying everything's great, yet there's problems behind closed doors, a ton of problems, things like that. It's hilarious, to say so the least, when people just say it's all great, the mentality's great, when you just got whooped 4-0 or you just got beat 2-3-0. Like, Eric Winalda, yeah, he was super upset when he lost 5-2 to us, but at least that coach was upset and knew what the heck was going on. Not saying, oh, this team is fine. I think we'll be all right for next week. I think our team has learned their lesson. Team morale is going to be fine. The team morale is fine right now. Blah, 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 saying stuff like that. So, yeah, you've got to get after your players a bit, and you've got to also learn to basically fix it.
Yeah, definitely. Blues fan says, we'll say this. Doesn't it feel good to take points away from home in USL play? Oh, it is wonderful. It's wonderful because Sean always talks about the fact that in American soccer, it's so difficult to get a decent result away. And to be able to get 4 points out of six total so far in this away road trip, it's wonderful. Now we have to see how we do against Phoenix Rising next week. There's a little piece of data that I do want to talk about the Toros before we start talking about the next match against Phoenix Rising, and that is that. If I can find the okay. So we're, like we said, we're in a 5-game winning, or not winning streak, but undefeated streak, right? So, in those matches, so look at the first 4, which is when we were doing bad, right? We scored 3 goals. We scored 3 goals in 4 matches when we started the season. In this 5-game streak, we have 2, 7, 11, 13 goals in 5 matches. Goals in favor, mind you. With only 8 goals against. So we have a plus 5? Yeah. So we're in those 5 games, we have a plus 5 goal differential. This team is chugging along well. And this is one of the reasons why right now at this moment we are 4th place in the Western Conference, behind New Mexico United, behind Tulsa Roughnecks, who, by the way, and I do want to bring this up, this is an interesting topic. They released a player during the weekend, I believe, for racist comments made on the pitch. And then Portland Timbers 2 as well in first place. We are 3 points away from Portland Timbers 2. Like I said, there's still games that are pending for this week from 5th below. But it is good to see that we are in 4th place, that we are high up in the standings. San Antonio FC right now is they're in 10th, which is only 2 points down below. But who cares about San Antonio, honestly?
I mean, we've really got one person that cares about San Antonio, and that's, of course, Harry, which we should say this to him. Your fans are leaving at a rapid rate because, well, you all aren't doing well. And, of course, yes, you beat one of the worst teams in the league at the moment, and that is Tacoma Defiance. So I would not be happy about that win. I just say that was supposed to happen if we beat a team like Portland Timbers, if we beat a team, I don't know, like Phoenix Rising or someone that's up in this standings, then we should feel good. If we beat our rivals, yes, we should feel good because our rivals right now are pretty freaking good. I'm not talking about your actual rivals, Austin Bold or El Paso because none of them are doing good. We're talking about the ones that are in fourth place. If you beat us, yes, you should feel good. But right now, very mediocre team. That's my public service announcement to San Antonio FC fans, including Harry.
Who, by the way, so this is one guy today that he just could not take the L. Like he couldn't accept the L. So yesterday, Scott Borowski of San Antonio Soccer Roundtable and a good friend of Harry's, he posted a picture of a car in front of him in San Antonio that had a Toro sticker on the car. And he posted something on the lines of, we should, so if somebody knows him, be sure to take him to a San Antonio match so he can know how to support a real club. And so I replied, with the Down in the Valley accounts, is like, well, that's the whole reason why he supports the Toros is because you took him to a San Antonio match. And this guy, he quotes me. He quotes my tweet saying, "Is RGV even a real club?" So
I mean, even I responded to that guy. I forgot what I said, but he did not reply back. So I mean, I can take that as him finally deciding to take an L. But man.
Yeah, so he replies that, like, is RGV even a real club? And I replied to him, well, number one, that was not the point of the joke. The point of the joke is that they took him to a San Antonio match, and that's where he became a Toros fan. And number two is that technically, if we want to be picky, no team in the U.S. soccer is a club. They're franchises. They are not clubs in the traditional sense of the word. But the guy continued. The guy persisted. And everybody just came in and totally swept the ground with him. Like, it was just sad. And he just continued to be, he just continued to try oh no, I'm the one that has that's saying the truth and stuff like that. But yeah, oh well. You can't tell them they're not gonna learn. They're reluctant to learn. But he got pwned, and that's what I'm happy for. So now that we talked about all of that, let's talk a little bit about Phoenix Rising. So next Friday, the 10th, Friday the 10th of May, the Toros will be back on the road to Phoenix Rising Soccer Complex to take on Phoenix Rising. This is a Phoenix Rising that is not like the Phoenix Rising of Drogba. This is a team that has been struggling so far this season. Right now, they have a record of 2-1-5. At home, they're 1-0-3. They tied against New Mexico United. They tied Colorado Springs Switchbacks. They tied against Fresno FC. And they won against Tacoma Defiance 4-0. So they're technically undefeated at home. But it hasn't really looked as great for a team that last season was fighting for the USL Championship. So it's going to be an interesting match on Friday. And the Toros have a good momentum going into this match. Their last game, they tied 0-0 against Sacramento Republic. And that happened last Saturday. So, what are your thoughts on this match?
Well, it should be a good one just due to the fact that, of course, the Toros are going to be playing on the road, and this is their third match in over a long time. Of course, this is going to be their biggest break, which will be 8 days. But, of course, they traveled back home today. I know that for a
Mm-hmm.
fact. So probably tomorrow or Friday, one of those days, they'll either go film and have a light practice, and then you got Saturday and maybe another
Well, they'll
practice
probably.
there or a day off. And just, of course, they got to get back to the regular style and still get used to this little bit of a time change, considering that they'll be back at least 1 hour behind from Texas time.
And I'm pretty sure because the Phoenix Rising play away on Saturday. They play against Orange County SC. So I have a feeling that maybe not all the players, but maybe at least the coaching staff might be watching this match against Orange County to see what they can expect out of Phoenix Rising. Um, so far, like I said, they look to be a high scoring team. Since they've defeated 4-0 Tacoma, tied 3-3 with New Mexico, 2-2 with Colorado. However, I have a feeling that, well, now that we're gonna have Conor Donovan back, who, by the way, was given the red for abusive language. That was the official. That was the official statement in the USL Championship Discipline Report.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a crazy thing. Refs half the time they get scared of players, even if the players are not even cursing or doing anything like that, which of course, yeah, that's just in USL rules. You cannot talk back to the ref really, or you can't really use abusive language as in cursing or F you or whatever the case may be. And we know Conor Donovan, and we doubt that that is him. We doubt that that's probably what exactly happened. And the way that the ref was acting on last Wednesday, I have to say it was probably he just got scared of Conor Donovan trying to talk to him after the game or something on the brink of that.
I don't know. It's just ridiculous how thin-skinned some referees are in that aspect. Obviously, this we're not condoning verbal abusive language, but I mean it's the end of the match. You messed up by going over the allotted time. Like, gotcha bad. Of course, the player's gonna be angry. It's instead of like aggravating the instance, you gotta diffuse the moment. Like, I don't think there was a need for a red card, but nobody saw anything live on the broadcast when it came to that. Like I said, it came as a surprise to everybody. Honestly, you were the one that brought it up in the chat, and we didn't believe you at first. Honestly,
Yeah. I just looked at it and saw red card, and then I saw Conor Donovan's name under it and was thinking, when the heck did this happen? Because it wasn't up a minute ago when I checked the score.
mm-hmm.
And it was just very weird, very random, to say so the least. So it did happen after the whistle blew. If I had to have anything to say, which I thought that was not necessarily okay for refs to do, but apparently it's fine by the USL if you're feeling attacked as a ref, which honestly I think refs feel attacked all the time. It's nothing different than, well, then you shouldn't necessarily be in You shouldn't have chosen this career path.
So Santos says, are they going to play any Liga MX exhibition games anytime soon? Haven't heard anything. Honestly, haven't heard anything about that. If there is going to happen, it might be Liga MX versus Liga MX after the end of the end of the season for Liga MX, which will probably be around July once because they get like a couple weeks of rest. Then you're going to have Gold Cup. You're going to have Copa America as well. That usually ends in July. That's when the players get a couple weeks off, and then they come back to do preseason. I think around there, the end of July, that's where we might see a Liga MX exhibition game. Now, we don't have any idea if it's going to be like last year where they had the Toros play a Liga MX team that was coming into preseason, like Santos Laguna, or if it's going to be Liga MX versus Liga MX. It would be interesting to see once again a Toros versus a Liga MX, because I think it's going to be fun. If last year's team was able to beat Santos 3-0, I think it'd be fun to see this Toros team go up against them, against another mid-table Liga MX team, and see what they're made of.
And yeah, you bring up a good point here as well, saying, are we going to even see a Liga MX exhibition game where it's Liga MX versus Liga MX? The whole reason why we had a lot of those was because of our president of the Toros. He was so great at
marketing. Well, not even.
Yeah, organizing those organizing those games across the border. It was something that not a lot of us had necessarily seen for just given that fact. So, of course, yeah, it will be really interesting to see what in fact does go down for exhibitions, if any.
Yeah, just you pretty much keep in touch with social media. If anything is announced, then we will retweet it or something like that. But as far as we know right now, there is nothing public, nothing that has been made public of anything being in the works when it comes to an exhibition match. He also says regarding Conor Donovan, he says, or he went on a power trip like MLB umpires, maybe. But going back to Phoenix Rising, I think that there's really not much to talk about Phoenix Rising. I think it's going to be a very close match, and I honestly think if we get a draw, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a decent getting 5 out of 9. I think it's decent for a USL team to get on the road. So I think obviously the team is going to go for the win, but I'd be okay with a draw.
Yeah, I'd be 100% fine with the draw. There is a chance for the Toros, if they play the way that they have been playing, to seek victory up in the mountains of Phoenix. Of course, I don't necessarily know exactly where Phoenix Rising Stadium is located, if it is even located on the mountains. But of course, you're talking about going over there. It will be much thinner air. There will be some elevation in general just to get there, even though it looks a lot flatter. But thin air. It's up in Phoenix. Should be an interesting match, and they can do it. I'd be really happy with just getting 1 point and having 5 points from a road trip. That's something that this club in general is not used to really seeing, especially on the road. Yet, of course, they have shocked us with getting some big road victories, as last year, of course, getting that Orange County FC victory on the road, which, well, we're going to have to face them once again. And, of course, that Orange County team this year is a bit different. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself for this Phoenix Rising game. I think, yeah, it's possible that they will win, but I would not be shocked if it does, in fact, end up in a draw.
So right now, the players that we have to look out for, especially in the attack, obviously Jason Johnson. That's been a consistent throughout these years with Phoenix Rising. Jason Johnson and his ability to score goals. He's got 3 goals so far in 8 appearances. Junior Flemings leads right now goals with 4 goals in those 8 appearances. And then Solomon Asante also has 3 goals in those 8 appearances. So they do have a firepower up on top. But as what you could see as well, they are kind of weak in the defense. And if the Toros continue to do a good job on defense, like they did against Portland Timbers 2, and our attack continues to kind of perform smoothly, I think we might have a chance.
Yeah, I most definitely think so. For sure, it's just going to be interesting to see what Jerson decides to do as in players. I think it will be the same teams that we've seen out here for a while, of course, with Conor Donovan in the lineup. And then, of course, we've got our super subs for now. And even Wilmer Cabrera Jr., I wouldn't be shocked to see him kind of out as a starter as well, kind of bringing the heat just like he did to Portland Timbers 2. I mean, that we haven't necessarily talked about that opening goal, but that was a fantastic opening goal last night from Wilmer Cabrera Jr. It was a team effort, but him being able to really put that ball in the back of the net, controlling it in the first place and putting it in the back of the net is something that we won't miss for Phoenix Rising, but for sure we'll miss when he goes off to Butler.
Yeah. Here's something interesting about Phoenix Rising, and that is that this team has, let me look at this correctly. So remember how I said that in the beginning they got scored on a lot? That was with Cal Wasinski on goal. Hopefully I said that right. But he leaked so many goals that they're like, okay, you know what? We're putting in somebody new. You know, getting scored 8 goals in the first 3 matches, they had to do something. So they put on their backup keeper. He's played 5 games so far. He's only conceded 1 goal. It's interesting. It's interesting how that just a keeper change brought, you can say, better results for Phoenix Rising. So that might be something we have to take care. We have to look at and see how how this team can get past Zach Lubin, because I highly doubt that Carl Wasinski is going to be playing as a starter, because he's such a liability on goals so far.
Yeah, exactly. That is something interesting to really put a footnote on, considering it's kind of the same thing with RGVFC. Will we see Tyler Derrick back up in Arizona once again? Or will we actually see maybe a Michael Nelson or, of course, a Nico Corti? Now, I maybe expect to see Nico Corti out there, but at the same time, considering how well Michael Nelson has been doing this season, I wouldn't be shocked to see Michael Nelson in at goal come Friday night. So, yes, it's great that we have choices of goalkeepers, but who have we gotten scored on the most with? And that, from what I've necessarily seen, would be Tyler Derrick.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting because you look at this And obviously, Michael Nelson has scored in. You look at goals conceded, right, in the website, and it says Tyler Derrick 4 appearances, 7 goals conceded. Okay, 4 of those being LA Galaxy 2. Michael Nelson 2 appearances, 4 goals, and I believe those were against Tulsa and against Las Vegas Lights. Nico Cordy, 2 appearances, 3 goals against. And then Ben Willis, 1 goal against with 1 appearance, and that was against Tacoma Defiance. But you go over into saves. In those 2 appearances with Michael Nelson, he's had 8 saves. Tyler Derrick, 4 appearances, 7 saves. Ben Willis, 4 saves and 1 appearance. Nico Cordy, 4 saves and 2 appearances. So when it comes to actually depending on a goalkeeper, Michael Nelson seems to be the best goalkeeper out of these 4 that we've had, and we see it like with those saves, like the reaction that he has, like he's one of the best goalkeepers that I think should be higher rated than Tyler Derrick. But, that's not saying that Nico or Ben are bad keepers. I think they're good keepers. But the talent that Michael Nelson has to make one-on-one saves, to how athletic he is, even with him being so big, he's the epitome of a keeper. He is like Joe Willis right now. Because Joe Willis is a big guy, but he can make amazing saves. And I think Michael Nelson is the future for the Dynamo. And we see it with the Toros. So I honestly think for this Friday, I don't think they're sending a keeper. I think if anything, they're going to be sending down Sam Junqua again. I'm not happy about that, but I mean, what can you do? Because I think, like you said, I think we need to give Cordy, we need to give Ben Willis opportunities as well for them to show that what they've got with the Toros.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, yeah, I know how much Sam Junqua is your favorite player.
Seems legit.
I know you adore this man by far, but yeah, and of course I'm joking on that 100%. But point being, you got to give that player as well. You got to give him a chance to just play. You got to give him a chance to get out there, show what he's made of. We know he's not going to go to the first team anytime soon. So of course, the whole point of this team from the start, no matter what, is to get those players ready to play for the first team of the MLS. So, and I don't think Sam Junqua is all as bad as we kind of make him seem. I think he's got a lot of potential, and he's starting to show a bit of good things going for him. So, like you said, I wouldn't be shocked to see him in this starting lineup and actually not looking too bad in the minutes that he gets to play.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really good match. And with that, I think we just covered all bases. So the other topic that I did want to talk about, and we forgot to talk about it when we talked about the Portland match. But now that we're still talking about keepers, I think it's a good question to ask, and that was Tyler Derrick a victim of rotation against LA Galaxy 2, or has he really lost a little bit of his playing level after the whole ordeal with his ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, and I kind of discussed my opinion on it last night with Generation Orange, so if you want to go back and just listen to a bit of a snippet here, but of course I'll give you all the details of what I really think. And he is a victim for sure of, well, not necessarily a victim, but like, of course, he just hasn't shown what he's capable of. If this dispute with his ex-girlfriend doesn't happen, would he still be the starting goalkeeper for the Houston Dynamo? Would we still have Joe Willis even as our backup goalkeeper? Would Joe Willis be coming down here? Yeah, it's just different questions that have really led to all this speculation of, has Tyler Derrick lost his momentum? And he is kind of the victim of, well, now he's lost rotation just due to the fact that, and of course, yes, you're getting older, but when you're a goalkeeper and getting older, you're supposed to actually mature and get better as a keeper. Of course, him having that almost a whole year off last season did not benefit him one bit. It, of course, as we've seen, actually kind of hurt him. And now, of course, he can't play with the Dynamo first team because Joe Willis is doing a spectacular job. And, of course, our backup goalkeeper, that he actually left last season.
Sites.
Exactly, Chris Seitz, which I'm just happy that we stole him from FC Frisco just for the thrill of it. We pulled a San Antonio for a second, which is nice, instead of it actually happening to us. So, it for sure is a bit of a, it's just something that happened. It's something that, yes, he is a victim somewhat of that, but of course he did it to himself.
Yeah, and besides though those personal things, looking at it in the actual technical perspective, you really see, and you mentioned he was suspended for almost a year from MLS, which meant that he couldn't train with the Dynamo. He couldn't train with RGV because he had this whole legal issue going on that technically you can't leave the area because you gotta be for court hearings and with the lawyers and the yada 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 yada. So after it was lifted, and also because technically he couldn't, he was still under contract with the Dynamo, which meant that he could not go to another team to play in USL. So, and he couldn't play with the Toros because he was under MLS contract, and MLS had him suspended. It was after they lifted the suspension when he was allowed to play, and that's when they loaned him to RGV last season, the end of last season, to kind of catch, get rid of some of that rust. And we saw what an epic goalkeeper he was against, who was it? I think was it Orange County? He had 7 saves in that one match. It was the Orange County. It was in the West Coast. It wasn't LA. It was either Sacramento or Orange County.
Yep.
But he had a you saw the Tyler Derrick that we all know and love. So to make things short, because I didn't get ready for the Tigres match. Yes, I think Tyler Derrick was a victim of the rotation of the roster for LA Galaxy 2, and we saw it that he was much better yesterday against Portland Timbers 2 when he had his the starter defense and Kevin Garcia in front of him. So Blues fan asks, was Gignac, and this is going with CCL, was Gignac always on the bench for other CCL games? Blues, he was injured. So in the first couple of games, they only played him in league matches. In CONCACAF, it was Valencia and Vargas. But the injury got a little bit worse, so he stopped playing at all for like a month and a half around there. And today he's going to be a bench, I believe. He's going to be on the bench for the final against Monterrey in CONCACAF Champions League. He played on Friday against Puebla. He didn't look good. But which is normal for him being out so long for a knee injury. So yeah, he was on the bench, or he wasn't even on the bench because of that injury. So. Whew. Oh, by the way, what happened to Liverpool, dude?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know that much. It's just, well, they had their opportunities. They did not take the chances that they really wanted to, and then Lionel Messi kind of being Lionel Messi, even though, of course, yeah, and Alisson. It was a tough stretch, to say so the least, in this game. It didn't help. It was like the Champions League final last year, no lie. Early on, you get an injury to one of your best players, to Nebi Keita, and Keita having to be subbed off early in this game hurt Liverpool. It shook up this whole team. They had to bring on a different player, not to mention that Xherdan Shaqiri wasn't even on the pitch at that time as well. And just, yeah, things did change for sure. Luis Suarez having that early goal did hurt Liverpool, but it didn't knock them out, of course. And just, they didn't have enough shots on goal, basically. That's what happened. When you don't shoot enough, or when you don't have those real opportunities, it does hurt you, and it did. They weren't even able to really get the ball inside the box and things of that nature. And when when Barcelona were able to get possession of the ball, well, they took advantage of it. The good thing is, it is two legs. They are down 3-0, but they can easily score 3 goals at home in front of their crowd. You're talking about two different size crowds. One was 96, probably close to 100,000 plus at Camp Nou, and then I believe Anfield's around 45, maybe 50,000. So it is two different types of atmospheres for sure, but both are going to be fantastic. And I think Liverpool aren't out of it just yet. They can easily get some home goals and probably even tie it up at Liverpool. So it's obviously going to be a long stretch, but I think it still is possible for Liverpool to still get to this finals. I don't think they're out of it just yet, but it does hurt that they're down 3-0. I know for a fact that one of those goals should not have gone into the back of the net. But things, of course, happen. The scoreline is the way it is, so hopefully they can come back and really shock the world, just like Ajax will do to Tottenham next week. Sorry, Sean, but they've got home field advantage now, and they're up 1.
I don't know, man. Like, I find it hard to hate Messi now. Like, I'm a huge Ronaldo fan, trust me. But I find it hard to hate Lionel Messi because he's just so good at what he does at a club level. Like,
what did he do after the game though? That's a big thing. Did he put on an Arsenal flag or Arsenal? Wow. Did he put on an Argentine flag after the game supporting his country? Because if he did that, all of his powers are lost. Because he chokes when he puts on anything related to Argentina.
Well, somebody needs to send him replace his Barcelona shirt with an Argentina shirt. Maybe Liverpool won't have a chance. Thank you, Santos, RGV Santos, for tuning in, man. Yeah, that's the end of the show right now. We're just kind of talking about UEFA Champions League because it was an interesting match tonight against Barcelona and Liverpool. And I know Jacob here is a Liverpool supporter, so I just wanted to get his thoughts on that. But I honestly think it's going to be extremely difficult for them to get back 3 points, even if they do have a home field advantage now. This is Barcelona. And it's going to be almost impossible to not have Barcelona score a goal. Once they score one goal, it's the end of the line for Liverpool.
Yep. But all Liverpool have to do is kind of tug on Lionel Messi's shoulder, just grab him by his arm, kind of pull him down. One of the players does it very slightly, and Lionel Messi, gets his shoulder injured and has to walk off. That could be a different story as well. Talking about the 2018 finals too, could have been a different story if, of course, Mo Salah is not pulled down by the worst player in the league. Yes, he is worse than the biter, Luis Suarez.
I do have to say though that Liverpool with Mo Salah was a different monster that match than when he had to leave due to the injury. Like the change in play was notorious. Like right after the Mo Salah was subbed off, you saw Madrid dominating because Liverpool had nobody to pass it to. They didn't have another good striker, and so that allowed the Madrid defense to come up and play more freely than with Mo Salah, because Mo Salah is quick. Mo Salah, he is very clinical. Today, not so much, but I don't think that he'll continue to be this bad in the second leg. I think this was one of the times where it was one of those days for Mo Salah where nothing goes well for you. So, like you said, technically the matchup is not finished yet, but it is going to be almost difficult to get to recover from it. But guys, that's it for tonight's show. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you haven't liked this already, be sure to give it a like. Be sure to share it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I want to give a big shout out to Victor Araiza and Diana Coronado. They are our latest subscribers. Welcome to the Down in the Valley channel. Victor, I know you well, since you are one of the people that covers the Houston Dynamo here in Houston, and my mentor when as well. So welcome to the channel. Hope y'all enjoyed. I hope to see y'all one day here in the live chat during one of those shows. Don't forget that Toros do not play this weekend. They play next Friday. Don't forget. Tune in on Tuesday for Generation Orange. We'll talk more about the Dynamo RGV. We are going to have Brett Stalasky on the show to talk about soccer marketing and things like that, more related to the Dynamo. And we're going to be touching. Oh, here's a kicker. If you got whoever's already here, join in on Tuesday for Generation Orange, because we're going to have an interesting discussion about media coverage. We're going to be talking about in Houston, but it also pertains to RGV. And we would really like to have some RGV perspective out of this topic, out of local media coverage. So if you guys have an opportunity, Tuesday at 7 p.m., be sure to join in on this channel to see Generation Orange with me and Sean Ringrose live on the show. It's also Beat Frisco week. This weekend, the Dynamo does play. They play the Texas Derby against FC Frisco. So if you guys want to see Frisco lose, then tune in this Saturday. In RGV, you can watch the game on. It's going to be televised nationally, so it's going to be on Univision Deportes. No, Unimas. It's going to be on Unimas, so you can watch the game there on Saturday between the Dynamo and the FC Dallas. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all. We want to thank our sponsors, Roughneck Scarves and Golden Goal Press. Roughneck Scarves are the official scarf supplier for USL, MLS, and US Soccer. And Golden Goal Press, if you guys want anything done for your group or for your organization, or maybe just for yourself. You want a custom shirt, hat, mug, or any other items, be sure to check them out at goldengoldpress.com. You can check out their amazing products at a fraction of the price at other places. goldengoldpress.com. Jacob, thank you so much for tuning in. I gotta set everything up for the final of the CONCACAF Champions League. By the way, I'm really, really nervous. So, but Jacob, thank you so much. We'll see each other next week, man. And guys, take care. Till next week. Hashtag we are todos, somos todos. And of course, do our part because we are one family. Thank you guys. Have a good night.